maybe. I like that little nub. Maybe I'll save that for a little hand axe. Perdinellis. Pop and pull. Good. That's a fun one. Good one. All right, got some flakes. Flakes and 4 flakes. These right here are essentially Waller knives. Let me explain. Now the Waller knife is found pretty much consistently in Florida, some of those kind of southeastern states. It was first identified by a man named Ben Waller, and he kept coming across these Paleo Indian sites with a very unique style of knife. Now the Waller knife is associated with the bowline assemblage. And this assemblage dates about 11,400 to about 10,000 years ago. The Waller knife is essentially a component of a toolkit of those Paleo Indians that were living at that time. So the Waller knives kind of range between 1 to 3 inches. The flake was removed, and on one face of it, where those pre-existing flake scars are, or that dorsal side, that's where any sort of addressing of that edge would be. Nothing on that ventral side, that smooth bottom side, was addressed. There was no pressure flakes taken off, there were no percussion flakes. It was all unifacial, pretty much done on one side. Now what makes these unique is how they were hafted. And where it's attached, it is essentially notched. Now we know these weren't dart points or arrow points because it still kind of has that raw flake sort of look to it. But where the haft is actually bifacial notching. So if we take this flake right here, which is a good example of a Waller knife, we have my dorsal side, which is my top side. This would be my one face. Nothing on my bottom side was worked at all. But when the notches were being put in to actually secure into the handle, which I'll show you here in a second, it was done on both sides. That's how you would bifacially notch a connection point. Being that they are recovered highly in Florida and some of those southeastern states that touch Florida, there's no real napping stone there. I mean, you can find some agatized coral and different materials. Somebody brought stone in that was external. It wasn't local to that kind of Florida southeast area. They either brought stone in, they brought a handful of flakes in, they notched it, and then put a piece of cordage around it, and they wore it around their neck until they needed it at that kill site where they wore it around their hand. They thought this out in advance. They said, we don't need anything too elaborate, but we need something to get through tough hide, maybe some tendons, some ligaments, fat, things to that extent. We want to make these field expedient knives to answer that requirement. It was a throwaway tool. They probably kept the cordage, threw the tool away when they didn't need it anymore. That's why we find stone in these areas around these Paleo Indian kill sites that is not organic from that area. They brought them in, they traded, had them on hand, they made these quick tools, used them in the butcherings, tossed them to the side. So I'm going to take a flake, I'm going to make a quick Waller knife, make the cordage, and show you exactly what they look like. More importantly, if you want to see how they work, you can go to any of the bison butchering, hog butcherings, or any videos that I have on here, see them in the action, or you can just sign up for a bison class and actually use it yourself. Nothing too heavy, nothing too crazy, kind of like that one right there. We'll use this flake right here. I'm going to throw some notches in, and this will be our Waller knife. Flaker. So a unifacial notch would be only if I was pressure flaking down like this, but since these are bifacial notches, I get to flip it over. Many of them were ground at the bases to avoid cutting that hand. Go. Cool. Notches. Now, if these folks were from the southeast of the U.S., very likely they're using some sort of palm, palmetto, some sort of yucca, some plant that's ultimately going to be organic to that area. So I have some dried palm leaf here that I'm going to twist into some quick cordage. Take my two ends just like this, tie a little knot, just a little overhand knot. Now I've got my knot. 2 equal sides, one on the top, one on the bottom. Left hand pinches the knot, right hand is my twister. So I'm gonna rotate towards the camera, I'm twisting away, I pinch with my right hand, come back towards me, move my hand up to that little, right to where that first little fold is. And I just twist, twist, pinch, rotate. Twist away towards the camera, come underneath, pinch with my middle finger, rotate towards me, slide my hand up. And after a few short seconds, you'll start to see that little reverse wrap, that little twist. If you're making anything that requires a bit of tension, you want this as universal as possible. See that diameter? It's consistent the whole way through. I rotate away, I come underneath, pinch with my index, bring it towards me. This right here, I'm sliding my hand up. The closer I can keep my fingers together, the tighter the wrap I'm gonna have. If I'm doing this, I'm gonna get a lot of looseness. I wanna bring my fingers, my slide fingers, up to that point, right where that little V is. See that V coming out right here? That's where my fingers are pinching. So when I am rotating away, grabbing with my index and coming towards me, I'm just moving my fingers up a smidge, like maybe even a half a smidge each time, just like that. Good diameter, consistent the whole way through. Sometimes you gotta flare it out. These bottom pieces will kind of twist around themselves. I'm about all wrapped up on my cordage. See what I did there? It's like trying to be funny. I suck. Now, one reason why I like to do the cordage in my fingers, especially for anything that could be under tension, is that when I do this on my leg and I roll my cordage, I'm losing that touch. As I'm working down these fibers, I can feel with every twist whether it's consistent or there's a thin spot. If there's a thin spot, I could introduce a new piece. I could create a little smaller piece and overlay it into my wrap, ensuring that it has a consistent diameter and strength the whole way through. When I do that on my leg, yes, I can create some cordage, but I don't know where those weak spots are. I can't feel it in my hand when I'm wrapping. More importantly, I can't add little correction pieces into my cordage as I'm making it. You don't want to be pulling back on a bowstring. You don't want to be lashing a raft together and making some sort of trap and have weak spots in your cordage. You can avoid that by reverse wrapping through your fingers, feeling the consistency, finding weak spots, and making the corrections necessary. To put that in reverse wrap terms, wrap it right or wrap it again. I just made that up in my head. That wrap it right, wrap it again. I think it works. I'm almost done. This is the problem with cordage. It takes forever. Put a little overhand knot right over. Now I've got my working cordage. I definitely want to always treat any sort of plant fiber like this with some animal fat, a little bit of wax. If I'm working with blood, if I'm working around water, anything like that, if I'm going to be sweating, I want to try to avoid these fibers from absorbing any of that liquid. It could shorten the lifespan of it, and it's just going to create future problems as you're going forward. It's my waller blade, little clove hitch right around my haft. Set and dress, secure my two ends, little square knot, and that right there is my waller knife. Now what this allows the user to do is essentially keep their blade in my hand. So as I'm working and I'm pulling out meat and I'm addressing anything that's kind of taking place in that butchering process, I'm not going to lose my tool. Once they did get a little bit of use wear on them and these razor sharp edges started to really wear down, unifacially you would see some small little flakes popped off. This is just kind of addressing the edge, going from that razor blade's edge to kind of that more lacerating edge. Still getting the same cut, but this is how you take the blade, extend it out just a little bit more. You get those sharp little lacerations. Let's say this one side, this unifacial side, is getting a little steep and I'm gonna have to start throwing more flakes. I'm kind of losing some of the material. Take it off my wrist, loosen my knot, take my old blade, toss it to the side, take my new blade, create that clove hitch once again, put it around my notches, set and dress, and my cutting tool is now back in action. So in closing, if you're a napper today, just think about all the material that goes down on your floor. Don't waste it. Save it for future butcherings of your own. Save it for future projects. turn it into some sort of Waller knife, give yourself a little lanyard. I don't necessarily believe they would have worn this, one or two of these around their neck. Any stone flakes around the neck would definitely make a clink sound. One could have been worn around the neck. Handful of flakes wrapped up in some leather, stuck into the hunting kit, turned into Waller knives when they needed. All right, there you go. That is one Waller knife. Appreciate you watching.